So I'm going to talk about the meaning behind your suffering. And this is something that I've really had to work with through this last 3 years. And I did the work prior because this is what I do for a living. But it's interesting what's happened to me. And obviously there's a reason for it. Hence, I'm sitting here speaking to you. It really showed me some things I didn't know existed. And Viktor Frankl's work, you need to find the meaning behind your suffering, is primarily what I do, and this is why. When I work with people, and again, I work with people on many different levels, but a lot of it's trauma. Things happen to us, and we cannot explain why they've happened. I am never, I would not want to repeat what I've been through, but I'm grateful for the lessons that I've learned. There are times when things are so bad, so awful. And hey, I'm grateful that I haven't suffered like Dr. Frankl or people that are starving in our world, and I could go on and on and on. So I'm just going to talk about what I know. There are times when things are so difficult and you think you can't go on. And I'm also speaking from severe depression, which required hospitalization and attempts of suicide. So I kind of understand how horrible things can get and what I've gone through over 3 years. You can't explain it. When I have people come and tell me some of the stories that I hear, it sometimes takes me days to walk off. I've heard things that are so unbelievable that it would shock you. You think you've heard it all, and then you hear one more. And you can't say to somebody, well, it's okay. What are you going to do? It happened. It's terrible. So from what I have seen, the 2 ways to help someone, and this is what I've done for myself, is the teachings of spirituality, spiritual psychology, elevating your consciousness, spirituality, and psychology is the study of the mind. And I will say I do trust in spirit. When I stopped doing it, things didn't go so well for me. When I trusted in spirit, thinking, well, what's going to happen? What am I going to do? Because nothing I could do. I said, I don't know who you guys are up there. I believe in more than one, but please help. And things ended up working out. It never fails. I had a therapist say, trust in spirit, trust in spirit, trust in spirit. And I did, and it worked. So whatever you are up there, thank you. But the only way for me to figure out what was going on, why did I have to go through this, was to say, go back to Logos therapy, what was the meaning behind my suffering? When I speak to clients, I can't take this away. I can't say that if a parent tried to kill you, it was right. It's done. It happened. But look who you've become because of what you have experienced. I can tell you, I'm a very different person now than I was then. And I hate to admit it, but I thought I was pretty enlightened before. Well, newsflash, I've learned a hell of a lot these last 3 years. It's kind of surprising to me. The meaning behind my suffering has been, and I suppose there's going to be more lessons. I don't know what they are yet. I'd like it to stop, to be honest with you, but unfortunately that's not happening at this very moment. But I'm ready for it to stop anytime now. The meaning behind my suffering, this is a question I get asked all the time, was to learn how to be patient, to slow down, and not judge the situation as wrong, and to live totally present, accepting whatever was before me I could handle, and not catastrophize my thoughts. It really was a lot about acceptance, to just stop thinking it has to be anything different than it was, because it didn't, and it's not. There's nothing I can do about it. It has been one of the most difficult things I've ever had to deal with. There's so many lessons, and they're going to be spread out throughout these series because truthfully, I can't remember all of them all the time. And I can't keep you on this video for the next 20 million hours. I've learned so much, it's unbelievable. I really learned how to be more present in a way that I never thought were possible, microscopic presence, because when I was stuck to just looking at a painting for many months, almost a year, boy, did I see a lot in that painting I never saw before. And guess what? I really enjoyed it. I learned how to sit, and I could see through my window this big building where people were walking back and forth and the birds flying. And I got to know when certain people were coming home at the same time every day. And I got to really appreciate seeing those beautiful white seagulls and hearing their squawking. It was delightful. When I saw a hummingbird, I would get very excited. I saw a hummingbird. And it's crazy, but you learn how to appreciate the very tiny, minute things in life that you never saw before. And you realize that the reason why our life goes by so fast is because we're too busy thinking about tomorrow, not realizing what we have now. I had to really learn to become present, accepting, and trust in spirit was a big one. Trust in spirit. And that means something different to all of us. I find that when I'm working with people that are really experiencing trauma, whatever it looks like, we can't take it away. So what we do is we learn to change our perception around what happened. We are all souls having a human experience. And we learn to have compassion for the soul. We may not be able to have, we may not be able to forgive what's happened, but we can forgive the soul that needed to come in and have this human experience. We can have compassion for the human experience that the soul has chosen to experience, which is what I've had to do for myself. We can learn to love unconditionally, right? I had to learn to love myself unconditionally. Still working on it. But just because I'm an invalid doesn't mean I'm any better or any worse than anyone else. I'm just going through what I'm going through. That's it. Right? But when things are really bad, the only thing we can really do is when we're suffering is figure out what is the meaning behind my suffering. Because I don't want this experience to just go right through the window and be completely oblivious to what's happening. What's really going on here? And when we become traumatized over many things in life can do this to us. I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lesson to be learned. You got to learn something. And sometimes when you're going through it, it's very, very hard to say, oh my God, I'm miserable. So what is my experience? What's my lesson? That can be challenging because you're too busy going through the difficulty of the situation. All you can do then is take a deep breath, accept what's going on, maybe accept what's going on and then taking a deep breath, whatever works for you, and take the next step. Again, even if that means doing nothing. If you've done this work and you've practiced, because it takes practice, you can pretty quickly, you can say, what is the meaning behind my suffering? And I know I did that when I was in the hospital in intensive care thinking, am I going to walk again? And because I've done this for a long time now, my thought was, boy, I'm going to be learning a lot of lessons. I guess right now my lesson is to learn that I'm really suffering and to do nothing to make it okay. My lesson was to learn if I don't walk again, I'll be okay. My suffering has now taught me to be a better therapist. And I use spiritual psychology and clinical hypnotherapy. My stories that I tell when someone's under hypnosis are very different than they were before. If I hadn't gone through what I am going through, what I'm going through now, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't appreciate walking down the street and really seeing a rose and not wanting to take it because it's going to be there for somebody else. And I'm going to sit there and I'm going to enjoy the colors and the scent. I'm going to walk, and when I see somebody walking in front of me, I'm going to find something to admire. I may not look up at them and smile. I'm probably not the most social person you've ever met. Some people wouldn't believe that, but trust me, it's true. But I'm going to find some reason to say, wow, look at that person. When I see those children laughing and giggling, my heart's going to light up. Because I see things differently. Even a candle that I'm looking at right now, I could tell you, I could see the shadows, the candles flickering back and forth. It's beautiful. And before, I wouldn't stop to do that kind of stuff. I've had to learn to be patient. I've had to also learn to be strong. And even though the last thing I want to do are those bloody exercises because I was sick so long I couldn't do them. And when I do them, I get more sick. And I'm trying to avoid being sick, but I can't. I have to be sick so I get better. Now that's taken me some time. So I've had to learn to do things that I don't want to do. And they don't feel good. But as my dad says, do it, Rochelle. Do your exercises. My stepmom would say, be tough. My mom would say, Rochelle, you got to do them to get better. And then she kind of get mad at me and say, do you want to be like this forever? Just like my doctor did. Ooh, he gave me a talking to. I've learned a lot of things. I've learned to take in other people's energy and make it okay and learn that I don't have to hold on to that. It doesn't belong to me. Even when I have clients that are, nothing really upsets me unless, if I hear a horrifying story, I get a little upset. I'm human and I have a lot of empathy for my clients. Anxiety seems to get me, but it's okay. I've had to really learn because I fight with energy because of no filter in my brain, which is getting better every day. I've had to learn to say, it's okay. This energy isn't mine. This is theirs. And how can I serve them? This isn't about me. How can I serve them? And I've learned to detach that energy coming my way. It doesn't belong to me. It doesn't have to. And I've had to learn to detach my thoughts from these catastrophizing thoughts into, well, what's positive? What can I be grateful for? I know it sounds really silly, but when you're miserable, if you learn how to do this, you're going to figure out real fast it's a good idea. People talk about it all the time, and you start thinking it's this new pop psychology and blah, 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 blah. Well, let me tell you something. It helps you think more clearly. And as my father would always say, is your glass half empty or is it full? And the reason why many of us are miserable is because we look at our glass as half empty, and it never has been. Never has been. It depends how you choose to think. What do you want to believe in? Right? So you have to be careful with your thoughts and manage them. So part of learning to change the way you think, and I'm just reading part of my book from Viktor Frankl. Here's one. Life itself has its own meaning under all circumstances, even the most difficult and miserable ones. The ones we think we will never get through. They have a meaning. If you can figure this out, why you're going through this difficulty, and kind of disassociate from the difficulty, use the tools that I've given you so far and think, okay, wait a minute, what is the meaning behind my suffering? I can promise you that your suffering isn't useless because it's making you, believe it or not, a better, stronger person. You, for some reason, have to go through this in this lifetime, so you might as well learn the lesson so you can get through it. And you're going to have more empathy for others than you did before, including yourself. What are you learning from this? Our primary motivation for living is our own will to keep deep meaning in our lives. We only have one this time around. We can choose to live a shallow, nothing life. If that's what you want to do, have at it. Or you can really choose, and I'm not saying become over analytical and live your life every second of the day, not just having fun and smiling. But there are many times where we really have to, what's the meaning of our lives? It doesn't mean how much money I make, what kind of job I have. Am I going to go save the world? Hey, that's great if you can do it. Go help someone. But what is my meaning? I know it's to serve others. And by me serving others in return, not on purpose, I'm being served myself. Because I can tell you something, my clients have really helped me through this. I'm sitting here helping them, but believe me, their stories and their love and compassion has helped me too. They all ask me, how are you, Rochelle? because I care. If I just help one person by this video series I'm doing, I've done my job. I'm not doing it for myself. I don't need to sit here and talk to a video that I'm doing. I'm doing it because maybe something I'm saying is going to help you. If I just help one person, I've done my job. That's the meaning of my trauma, was so I could become a better person and help others, because that's what I've been doing for a long time. And it was also so I could become a better person to help myself slow down and smell the roses and realize what is really important in life. Don't sweat the small stuff. If I got a few wrinkles on my neck because this happened so fast, I lost 35 pounds. I was in a hospital for a week for dehydration. So what? Who cares? Sometimes it's hard, but so what? None of it matters. I've learned not to sweat the small stuff because really it doesn't matter. Whether I carry a very expensive handbag or I carry one that I love that isn't that expensive, who cares? That's not what life is about. That's not what my meaning of life is about. I want to see what's really out there and what gives me peace. The meaning of my experience was to really learn, how do you find peace? Well, you eliminate all these illusions that you become attached to that are meaningless. And the last one is, each and every one of us have the freedom to find meaning in what we do and what we experience, in how we act, and in the position and stand we take when faced with the challenging situation of the unthinkable, unchangeable suffering. What do we do with it? All I can tell you is at the times that I've just not known how to deal with this, I had to, again, I'm going to say this a million times, stop, breathe, and accept what's going on and say, hey, my lesson obviously right now is to learn to stop and settle down. And the meaning behind my suffering is to take everything I've learned and in my particular case, help others and learn for myself that I can do this and that there are more important things in life than being on a TV show or carrying the most expensive handbag I can find. Doesn't mean anything. It's also taught me to be a better mother, because I can teach my child, not at the moment because she doesn't want to listen to me, but I know that the little things I say to her, I see her, she listens, and I know one day she'll listen even more and come to me and ask me questions. And I know that when I again walk down the path, I can really sit there and appreciate all the trees that I see and really appreciate them. And I'm lucky to be alive. So the meaning behind my personal suffering was to find peace within myself and help others. Find the meaning behind your suffering. If you had a tragic childhood, you wouldn't be who you are today if you hadn't. What'd you learn? What do you like? What do you don't like? What will you not repeat? Maybe you need to learn to be worthy and deserving. Just because somebody said something about you doesn't make it so. We are all souls having a human experience. We're all created equal. None of this stuff, this just doesn't matter. What matters is that you wake up every day and you love yourself, you accept yourself unconditionally, and you find peace. And it doesn't matter how difficult times are. Just know when you're walking through that fire, there's a lesson there, and the only way you're going to learn it is to walk right through it. Face it. Walk through it. And when you come out to the other side, that is often how you're going to say, oh, that was the meaning behind this dreadful experience. And when I work with my clients, I can tell you, you can't reason with half this stuff. It doesn't make sense. Why a child is abandoned? Try to explain that to me. Because nothing you say is going to make sense. But that child had to go through this in this lifetime, and I have a lot of compassion for that child, because now they're a grown-up and they're coming into my office. And I'm saying, what'd you learn from it? And look who you become. A tower of strength, love, compassion, and empathy. So try writing down what's the meaning of my suffering and see what you come up with. You might surprise yourself and realize that it wasn't wasted time. It was just lessons that you had to learn.